Well, hello everybody, I hope all is well. It's Sammy's Old Tech back here with another video. I know it's been a while since I last uploaded, my apologies on that, I was really busy. But I'm free now and I have a nice video planned for you guys today. So basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be showing my iPod collection, my Apple iPod collection. Now remember, this video is specifically for iPods and it doesn't show the full Apple collection I actually have, which is of course way more than that. So let's get right in and let me begin with the iPod Shuffle. Now this iPod Shuffle I believe is either a second generation or a fourth generation. I might be wrong. If I'm wrong, please tell me in the comments because I'm not really I don't have good knowledge with iPod Shuffles as much as I do with other types. So I'm not sure which generation. I think it might be a second or a fourth generation in this nice blue color. However, if I am wrong, then please tell me in the comments. As you can see, it has a clip you can use. You can use it for listening to music. For example, you can plug in a headphone jack and it will actually work with music. This one is just out of charge and therefore doesn't show signs of life, but I'm sure if I charge it, it would work. So the other iPod I have before the iPod Touch is the iPod Classic. I believe this is either a 5th or 7th generation. Again, if I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments. This iPod Classic has an issue with the battery. When I plug it in, it starts turning on, but as soon as I unplug it, it just turns off and doesn't work properly. Other than that, I believe it's a really nice iPod to have in my collection, especially since it's a classic model. As you can see, these iPods, the material tend to be scratched up quite easily, unfortunately. However, it is still a really cool thing to have in my collection. Again, you can listen to music through this iPod using a headphone, wired headphones, and through the headphone jack, and it's a really nice thing to have in my collection. So now let's move on to the iPod Touch. Now regarding the iPod Touch, I don't have all 7 generations. I mainly focus on collecting generations 1 to 4 because those are the generations that interest me most personally because I have lots of memories of them. So essentially I have 2 iPod Touch first generations. As you can see over here, they are both the exact same in terms of specifications. They're both 8 gigabytes. They're both quite a bit scratched up. However, this is normal with iPods, especially the older ones with this design, with this finish. And as you can see, what's unique about this iPod is that it has the edges of the iPod show, actually they're prominent, and the only button it has is the power on and power off button with no volume buttons. And it has a home button as well, and uses the 30-pin charger. The first generation till the 4th generation iPod Touch used the 30-pin charger, and I have 2 of these. So next up we have the iPod Touch 2nd generation. This released in 2008 following 2007 iPod Touch 1st generation. I have one over here. This actually works, and I forgot to mention one of the 1st generation iPods, I'm not sure if it's this one or the other one, also works and is running iOS 3.1.3. Now this iPod Touch 2nd generation works perfectly fine and it runs iOS 4.2.1, which is I believe the latest iOS version that came with this iPod Touch, released in 2008, 1 year after the 2007 iPod Touch 1st generation. And now I have another iPod Touch over here. Now you might be asking me, aren't they exactly the same model? Well, no, you are wrong, because this is the iPod Touch 3rd generation, while this is the iPod Touch 2nd generation. As you can see, a key difference is that the iPod Touch 2nd generation has a larger font for its storage capacity, while the iPod Touch 3rd generation has a smaller font. As you can see, let's zoom in on the iPod Touch 3rd generation. I have it in 32 gigabytes as opposed to the 16 gigabyte iPod Touch 2nd generation. Now this one runs iOS 5.1.1, I believe, and it works perfectly fine. And up until the 3rd generation, the iPod Touch had no camera. After the 3rd generation, during the 4th generation and onwards, they began to have a camera. And now let's move on to the most common iPod in my whole iPod collection, which is the iPod Touch 4th generation, and I actually have 3 of those. So what's different about them? Surprisingly, all of them have the same storage of 8 gigabytes. I'm not sure if it's exactly clear. It says 8 gigabytes, 8 gigabytes, and 8 gigabytes. As we flip them over, we see that I have two black colored iPod touches and one white colored. Now I believe that the white is a little more difficult to find nowadays. Now mistake me if I'm wrong, because I think I heard that the white was produced in less amount than the black models of the iPod Touch. Although I might be wrong, fix my mistake in the comments, please. And as you can see, they all look really similar from the outside. Now internally, both this and this run iOS 6.1.6, the latest iPod Touch iOS for the 4th generation. However, this one runs iOS 5.1.1 and it actually works normally, and it's working completely fine. So this is pretty much it for the video, and I'm going to be putting them in display over here so you can see the true scale of my iPod collection. Now I know many people might have more iPods than I do, however I am trying to expand my collection of such devices because I find them to be very fascinating and interesting, and I wish you can all subscribe and like the video to motivate me to keep on doing these types of videos. And thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day. Goodbye.